think we can let them in and see, and then we can get started in a second. Good afternoon. Thank you for those of you that are just joining. We will get started in about 1 or 2 more minutes. We just want to give everybody a chance to join in. So thank you so much for your patience. Awesome. Do you want to get started then? Cool. So thank you, Rex, for joining us. My name is Joseph Cruzetta. I'm the Small Business Program Administrator, and we're here today to talk about commercial leasing and mediation. With us today, we have the Office of Small Business and the Bar Association of San Francisco, a conflict intervention service that will be detailing a bit more around, commercial leasing, how to ensure that you have the proper resources in place to not only negotiate a commercial lease, but also once you have a lease to be able to mediate should any issues arise. So just a bit of the agenda. We'll go through some quick introductions, and then I'll pass it off to my colleagues at the Small Business, the Bar Association. Then we'll talk about negotiating commercial lease agreements. We'll talk a little bit more about mediating commercial lease agreements, and then just any questions and next steps you may have. So first and foremost, like I said, my name is Joseph Cruzetta. I work with the Community Economic Development Division. And basically, we work to support small businesses by funding nonprofits as well as directly small businesses through grants and loan programs to have a more vibrant commercial corridor, commercial neighborhood in San Francisco. And so our investments are on advancing equity and shared prosperity, as I mentioned, by investing in small businesses, entrepreneurs, and communities of color. We have languages in both English, Spanish, Cantonese, and Mandarin, and then the other language support that is needed is available upon request. We can be reached at oewd@sfgov.org, or our main line is 415-554-6969. Again, that number is 415-554-6969, and our email is oewd@sfgov.org. I'll pass it off to my colleague, Iris Lee, who is with the Office of Small Business.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm Iris Lee. I'm the Commercial Leasing Specialist at the Office of Small Business, focusing on all things commercial leasing for y'all, joined by my colleague Divine as well, who is here. At the Office of Small Business, we're a central point of information for small businesses. So all things small business, we have a lot of different services here and a lot of different folks who are specialized in assisting you on every step of your need through that. We have a team at City Hall who can help with business licensing, registration. We have a team at the Permit Center who can help with permitting. We have policy advocates as well as myself and Divine who do commercial leasing and many more. So anytime, anything small business, we're here for you. Here's some general information you can scan or join our website. sf.gov/OSB. There's a lot of information on there for y'all to explore. We also have a link for you to look at commercial spaces that are available and advertised at sf.gov/commercial spaces. Next slide. It's now I pass it on
to Darren with the.
Thank you, Iris, and thank you, Josio, and thanks to our participants here today for joining us. My name is Darren Orr, and I'm from the San Francisco Bar Association's Conflict Intervention Service. We are an interdisciplinary team of mediators with backgrounds in landlord-tenant law, in mental health services, in all sorts of different interdisciplinary backgrounds to help folks with facilitated conversations We provide mediation, negotiation, very informed referrals and connections to all sorts of resources to assist folks, both commercial tenants and landlords, as well as residential tenants and landlords. Conflict intervention service can help with resolving leasing conflicts that can lead to evictions, with leasing negotiations, or if you need to terminate a lease early, we can help with relocation support, maintenance issues, health and safety concerns. There's almost no end to the different types of things we can help with if you are a tenant or landlord in San Francisco. We have a 24-hour hotline, helpline that provides a response if you give us a call or send us an email within 24 hours. Doesn't matter when you contact us. And if you want to learn a little bit more about our services, you can go to sfbar.org/ADR-services/CIS, or just click on the link in the slides or scan the QR code there. Thanks. And I'm going to send out a quick poll here just so we can get a little sense of the folks who are joining us.
Yeah, and while participants are looking at the poll, just a bit of housekeeping items. So if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box or the Q&A box to pop in your questions. There's a lot of content and a lot of information that's going to be, thrown at you today. So some of those questions that you may have may be answered later on. So again, feel free to utilize, like I said, the Q&A box or the chat box. And with that, I see that the poll is being answered at the moment. And then I will let you close it, Darren, and then Iris, you can go ahead and start.
Give folks about 20 more seconds here. All right, and I'm going to close out the poll now, so put in your response if you hadn't had a chance to. Okay, and here are the results. It's like we have some folks thinking about starting a small business today. Excellent. This is a great webinar for you.
All right. So if you're thinking about starting a small business, then depending on whether or not that small business will be occupying a commercial space, this is for you. So as you are looking and searching for a small business, the number one thing to always have is your business plan. This is a roadmap for yourself. This is a roadmap for your business. It will continue to change and grow with you as you continue to operate your business over the years. So it's really important to have that in the beginning. It gives you an idea and a clear plan of what you're looking for, right? When you start looking at spaces, or even when you start looking at different options and roadmaps for your business. When it comes to commercial spaces, the rent is really important to have. Be sure to have a range in there. There are a lot of different factors that can affect the rent budget, and we'll get into that. But having that range is really important, and keeping it in mind to be flexible when it comes to the rent, because depending on the commercial space, there are a lot of different give and take with that. The security deposit is a good budget to have in mind as well. This is an amount that you will deposit with the property owner. It will be held. It is not a amount that will go towards your rent in the beginning or the end. It is a common misconception that folks think that the security deposit is your first and last month's rent. That is not common or not true for commercial spaces, whereas it might be for residential space. Generally, the security deposit, depending on the situation, could be anywhere between 1 month to 3 months of the rent that are agreed upon. Moving costs, so depending on what new materials or equipment you need to purchase, any improvements that you need to make to the space, those are all things to keep in mind and to budget for when you are looking for commercial spaces. Insurance, there's a few different insurance policies that are generally required. Your general liability insurance, workers' compensation insurance if you plan on having employees. Business interruption insurance is one that is always recommended as well. So, when it comes time to looking for spaces, we always advise folks to call a few different insurance companies to get estimates so that you have an idea of how much those will cost. Always recommend talking to other business owners as well, as they'll definitely be able to give you an idea of, what those price ranges. Permit fees, knowing this is quite crucial as well. So as you're working with myself or Divine, we also have our permit specialists here who can help you understand what fees might be associated with your business type and the space that you're going into. There are a bunch of other costs that can be considered that can pop up. So just having a cushion budgeted in is really helpful. Estimated for increased costs as well in your leases, general inflation costs of your cost of goods, general inflation for your insurance costs. Your rent usually increases annually as well. Occupancy costs. So how you calculate how much rent you can budget for is usually your rent is divided by your sales, which equals your occupancy costs. If you Google this on the internet, generally you'll see anywhere between 8 to 10%. That is common for the rest of the country, perhaps, but I would say in our city of San Francisco and likely New York as well, we're going to see more of the 18 to 20%. So it is quite high, and that is something to keep in mind when you are looking for commercial spaces. Next slide, please. So how to select a storefront that's right for you. So in your business plan, you'll know the neighborhoods that you're either targeting. If you don't know what neighborhood you're looking into yet, walking around, driving around, getting to know the different neighborhood is really important. That will help you narrow down your search. It'll help you, keep a little bit of sanity as you're looking around and getting an understanding of where you think your business would fit best. You will obviously be doing your competitive research and understanding what existing businesses are nearby. Are there healthy competition? Is there a good synergy with the businesses that are around? The square footage, knowing your range of the size is also helpful. Some folks have a strict idea of what they want, and that is okay. But if you don't know, having that range, and then as you continue to look at spaces and tour spaces, you'll get an idea of what is a good fit for you. Along with the square footage, sometimes for certain businesses, there might be certain shapes of the space. For example, some spaces desire a, more rectangular shape or narrow space, and some want an open space. So keeping those in mind as well as you're searching. We covered the budget for the rent range, the condition of the space. So sometimes there are businesses that are looking for your turnkey spaces. Turnkey means ready to go, meaning you negotiate the lease, you get the lease in hand, you deposit everything, you get your permits, and then you can open, let's say, within a month, right? Maybe you'll do some cosmetic changes. So if you're looking for something more turnkey, then you're likely to expect a higher rent because, you'll have less capital upfront to put in. There are some times where you're looking for spaces that are maybe not turnkey and need some work to be done. Either you're looking to open a cafe and you need to do some improvements, such as putting in sinks, getting some permits, some hoods involved. Those are all things that you need to budget in the capital improvement budget. And so if a space is in a condition where you need to do that work, that's where you'll have some negotiation room potentially for rent. Search online, use the website that we have to look for spaces, use Craigslist, use a bunch of different brokers or agents to look for spaces. Keep in mind that some agents might ask for you to sign an exclusive agreement. Definitely read the agreement, reach out to myself or my colleague Divine to understand what that agreement states and if that is a good fit for you. I always suggest folks to go with your gut. Meeting someone to search for a space for your business is similar to when you're looking for a home. Have conversations with them, ask questions related to the business, ask questions about their experience with working businesses like yours, so you have an idea of how they're working for you and how they're going to find that space for you. If you check in with the neighborhood, there are a lot of different merchants associations and community benefit districts that exist. These folks are on the ground in that specific neighborhood. They might be aware of spaces that are becoming available that are not yet available. And they have a lot of different resources potentially for those specific areas that you're looking at. And any needed improvements, contractors' inspections, during negotiation phase, it's always important to get those inspections to understand what, if anything, needs to be brought up to code, for example, in a restaurant space. Our permit specialist can help you connect with health inspectors to do that as well. Next slide, please. So what's the difference between an LOI and a lease? An LOI is a letter of intent. So this is a document that is pretty straightforward in outlining the most important terms of the lease to be negotiated before you get to the lease. It is not a legally binding document. It is a tool that is used to negotiate the terms of the lease. So as you are using this LOI, usually an agent will draft the LOI on your behalf and you'll review it. You're welcome to use us as a resource to connect and discuss what that LOI looks like, how it fits your needs, how can we bridge any gaps between what the property owner is asking and what you're proposing. So you'll see likely different iterations of the LOI. We'll go back and forth the negotiation. In a perfect world, we're looking at maybe a month of back and forth negotiations, several different iterations of the LOI. Sometimes it lasts longer. I've definitely seen scenarios where the LOI phase can last up to a year. It really just depends on the condition of the space and the parties that are involved. But having this information documented is really important when we get to the lease. So once the LOI is finalized and you have all the important terms that are agreed upon, such as the rent, such as how you're holding the lease is documented. Excuse me, the lease is drafted. And, we want to make sure that the LOI terms that were agreed upon were properly transferred into the lease. You can use us as a resource to review your lease and make sure that that has properly transitioned, making sure that there are any lease terms that, you want to negotiate, making sure the language are things that you understand, making sure that there are dates that you're aware of where you have to abide by as well. So the lease is legally binding. Once it's signed and executed by all parties, definitely recommend keeping a copy of that, either a hard copy or a digital copy safely so that you have that to reference in the future. Questions to consider is what is the term of the length of the lease and what is going to happen to the space? Are there plans for the space to be sold? Are there plans for the place to be developed, etc.? So they're all good questions to ask prior to that. Next slide, please. So this goes into a little bit more detail of what is included in that LOI. So leaseholder, how are you holding the lease? Are you holding it under your name as a sole proprietor? Are you going to be creating a corporation or a nonprofit? This is important to decide and communicate beforehand. Oftentimes I've seen folks will use their name in the beginning, and then as the lease gets drafted, they decide they want to put it into their corporation. That can change the game in a lot of ways for property owners. It comes down to liability. I will defer to an attorney to more details about that liability, but just so you know, it is important to discuss that in the beginning. The term talks about how long the lease is, the rent amount, the different structures for a lease. A gross lease, as an example, is a lease where you're paying, $5,000 a month for your rent, and then you're responsible for your utilities. A triple net lease, commonly seen as NNN, means that there are additional costs that are passed through to you. So this could look like common area maintenance fees, property taxes, property insurances. How those are calculated are typically based off of your percentage occupancy of the entire building. So if you are in a 3-floor building, your space is 1,500 square feet, and each floor is 1,500 square feet, your responsibility for those bills are 1/3, 30%, as an example. I think I'm doing that math right. And those rates are usually non-negotiable. So you're able to negotiate the gross rent, the base rent, but not the triple net. Generally, there is a 3 to 5% annual increase in leases. So that is something that can be negotiated in the beginning. This varies depending on the property owner and how they operate. Understanding your use and your operating hours is important so that it's agreed upon what the use will be in that commercial space. Operating hours are also important depending on the use, whether it's a bar, a restaurant, or a bookstore, just so that everyone's on the same page. Your lease and your rent commencement dates are also important to understand when the lease actually begins, when your rent actually starts. So this means that you may have negotiated some free rent. So maybe 3 months after your lease begins, you'll have some free rent. Option terms. Option terms are your option to renew. So as an example, if you sign a 3-year lease with a 3-year option to renew, at the end of your 3 years, you'll be able to request to renew your option so that you'll stay another 3 years, given that it's a space that you're happy with and you're continuing to grow and stay. Understanding the sublease terms, making sure that, if for whatever reason you need to leave and you can no longer operate your business, you're able to sublease the space or assign the space to someone else. A big factor I like to bring up is utilities, making sure that the utilities are separately metered. Oftentimes, this is not brought up, and it could be a big headache down the line because, let's say you're a bookstore operating in the same building as a laundromat, and they're going to share the water bill. How is that properly calculated? Those are all important factors that need to be discussed ahead of time. If you're not sure, or if the property owner or agent is unable to get that information for you, you can always call SFPUC or PG&E and confirm whether or not there is a separate meter there. Tenant improvements and maintenance. So if there are improvements that the property owner is going to be doing, or maintenance that that you are going to be doing, understanding those ahead of time, the insurance policies as we talked about, and ADA improvements. ADA improvements is a big one. It is a federal and state law, so it needs to be ADA accessible. There are CASP inspections and further resources that we have at our office that we can help you with, but this is a big component where property owners will try to pass on to the tenant. So those are all things that can be negotiated. Next slide, please. So how do you negotiate? So a lot of the negotiation really holds on to the numbers factor, the condition of the space, how much budget you have for the capital, the tenant improvement work that the property owner is either capable or willing to do, or if they're not able to do that, then the rent abatement that they're able to provide in order for you to do that. Getting estimates and timelines from contractors or architects, as well as our permitting specialists, is really helpful for you in that negotiation phase. If you find a space and an architect or contractor tells you it's going to take 6 months to build out, we want that information during that LOI phase so that we can budget that into the negotiation and letting the property owner know that ideally you're not paying rent during that time. There are ways to get creative to bridge gaps between the property owner's desire for rent as well as what you're able to afford. And always ask questions. Keep an open line of communication, which is really key during negotiations. None of us are mind readers, so understanding what the goal is and what the desires are can really help in getting to a good agreement. Working with a leasing specialist, that's what myself and Divine are here for. You have us as resources to help you through this process. You're not alone. If you're working with an agent, sometimes you can work with them as well, but there are also times where folks will work with an agent and ourselves. So as I mentioned, the LOI document will change. Make sure to document the changes within that document by using either track changes or suggestions if you're using Google or Word. This way you're able to see and easily remember what changes were done during that negotiation. And be prepared to adapt, exercise patience. Things can move quickly or things can move slowly, really depending on how much information you've gathered and provided and how much information exists with the space. It is quite common for deals to fall through. So, I would say you could do your due diligence and do as much as you can for a space. Even if you are in love with the space, it might not work out and, a better space could come along. But I think at the end of the day, you have to feel comfortable and happy with the agreement and the property owner that you're going to be, working with the longevity of your lease. Next slide, please. So negotiating your lease agreement, as we discuss who should review your lease, we are here as a free resource for y'all to review your lease. We are not attorneys, but we've been reading leases for quite some time, so we can understand what clauses may not be a good fit, or what clauses that you should be aware of, and what clauses that you should maybe think about rewording or talking to an attorney to change. Obviously, we have Darren here at CIS. We have Legal Services for Entrepreneurs, which is another nonprofit. What should you negotiate? So there are a lot of different languages. The LOI maybe is about 4 pages. Leases I've seen range anywhere from 10 pages to 150 pages. So there are a lot of clauses in these leases. Understanding these clauses are really important for you as you operate your business, so that if something does happen, you know how to, mitigate that, you know how to have that communication, or in the case, go to CIS for that. Understanding your late fees, the maintenance responsibilities. Generally, a tenant is responsible for everything within the four walls that you've leased. And then the property owners are responsible for the foundation, structural elements, and the roof. Let's see. What clauses should you negotiate? There's a lot of them. So this is just a quick highlight of them. I definitely recommend, once you get into the lease stage, reaching out to our office, as we can dive in a lot deeper with a lot more information about what to negotiate. But the sublease and assignment clause, as mentioned earlier, these usually are quite expanded, or they can be quite short, but understanding that is important. Your dispute resolution clause. What happens if there is a dispute? Do you go to arbitration, or do you go to mediation? Your first right of refusal for lease. So, for example, if the building is slated to go for sale and you are in the position or interested in purchasing the building, you can add that as a clause into the lease, where you have the first right to make an offer and purchase the building. Next slide, please. So what is typical at the lease signing and after? So typically, once you've agreed upon the lease and have it reviewed by an attorney or ourselves or even another person, usually what is due is a security deposit, your first month's rent, and the certificate of insurance. Usually they will require checks for those, or cashier's checks. I always recommend documenting this so that you have it in your own records, so that you know that it was paid. Um, Store and save your lease for safekeeping. It is very important to keep that in your documents, either physical or digital. Marking the important dates on your calendar, for example, when to renew your lease, or for example, if there's a clause where you need to notify the property owner when you go on vacation for X amount of days. Those are all important dates to note. And notification. So some scenarios, for example, for renewing your option, does require you to notify the property owner in writing. So typing up a letter, sending it via certified mail, as well as email. This way it is very clear that that communication was expressed and that you have renewed your option. Sending a text, having a phone call, or a email sometimes does not hold up when it is clearly stated in your lease that you need to renew via a certified letter. Next slide, please. So this was a new law that was passed, SB 1103. So there are more information when we send out the slides for you. You'll see that the lawyers for Legal Services for Entrepreneurs put out a fact sheet. So if you are a micro enterprise with 5 employees or less, a restaurant with 10 employees or less, and a nonprofit with 20 employees or less, you qualify as this. So what this protects you for is the notification that property owners are giving to tenants who, for example, are in a month-to-month lease and they're trying to increase your rent. So there are different days that are already set forth in here that they have to give you to notify this. We also have a template for a self-attestation. So when you do sign this lease, we will share that with you so that you can self-attest that you are, in a qualified micro enterprise for that space. And we can share out more information for that. But at the end of the day, all things leasing, highly recommend reaching out to us. We're here to support you, to help you understand the process, and make sure you are getting the best deal that you can. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you so much, Iris. That was really useful information on getting started with setting up your lease and letter of intent and getting that storefront going. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So, I'm here to talk to you guys about mediation. There's a lot of mystery surrounding mediation. What is mediation? Well, we like to think of it as facilitated negotiation because that's really what it is. Iris just gave you a whole bunch of information about negotiating a commercial lease, for example. What we can do is facilitate, make that easier for you. And we can do that in a lot of different ways. We work with all sorts of commercial tenants and landlords and can provide a lot of different support to help you get unstuck. If you're starting to get stuck with either negotiating a new lease or if you're in an existing storefront and you're having issues with maintenance, with costs, with neighbors, all sorts of things we can help. And a lot of times, a breakdown in communication is really causing the problems to get out of control. And so what we can do is really help open up these lines of communication. And even if the other parties, the other side doesn't want to participate, we can help you with communication coaching one-on-one. Our mediators are very skilled at generating options. So for example, we've had commercial tenants come to us thinking that their only option is to exit out of their current lease because they've been dealing with leaks and other maintenance issues, not just for weeks, but for years. And because of the kind of operating structure where they leased from an owner of one part of the building, but the entire building was managed by a different organization and had responsibility for repairing the roof. It was the tenant felt really stuck and wasn't able to communicate with everybody. But conflict intervention service was able to get all the parties talking and actually help the tenants and the landlords figure out a remediation plan to address the repairs, get them rent credit that was satisfactory, and they were able to keep operating. So we can infuse hope into the situation. Oftentimes, you might be thinking that your situation is hopeless because of a communication breakdown or things aren't working the way you want. But before you give up, give us a call or send us an email. We're free. We have a rapid response, and there's a lot of different ways we can figure out how to assist you once we learn a little bit more about your situation. Next slide, please. So here are some of our mediators on the commercial team. We have Chris Fierro. He is a certified attorney mediator. He has decades of experience in California landlord-tenant litigation, commercial landlord-tenant litigation, and residential property conflicts. He also has quite a bit of experience mediating and also serving as judge pro tem for the Sonoma County Superior Court. Chris is fluent in Spanish as well as English. Yida Hong is another one of our attorney mediators. She has expertise in commercial and residential leasing disputes, as well as quite a wealth of experience in business administration. And Yida is fluent in Cantonese and Mandarin as well as English. And myself, I'm Darren, and I have quite a lot of experience I'm also an attorney as well as a mediator, and I have a lot of experience in landlord tenant litigation and other civil rights litigation. Next slide, please. So, how do you get a hold of us? Well, we have a 24-hour helpline, and it's great. You can call us, you can email us anytime, doesn't matter day or night, holidays, you can reach out to us and we will get back to you guaranteed within 24 hours. So the sooner you contact us, the better. we will always will jump into assist. We can assist even if folks are already in litigation, but we are more successful often the earlier we get involved. So don't delay, just contact us right away if you think there might be an issue. And be prepared to provide a brief summary of your situation, description of your business and the parties involved, and what your goal is, what you're hoping to accomplish uh, um, by through our assistance. Next slide, please. So, here's some of the different services that we offer at Conflict Intervention Service. And again, there's a lot of kind of mystery around mediation because often folks have in their mind a kind of court model that maybe they've been in through if they've been in court or they've seen on TV or maybe a kind of more business-like model. But really, what's at the heart of mediation is shifting people's perspectives and paradigms for when they are in a dispute. Um, so we utilize experts again in commercial leasing that can really help folks overcome different barriers that are getting them stuck, uh, generate different options for folks, help them overcome different challenges just in the communication itself, which can really be a lot. And having a neutral third party facilitate communications, even if it's not a formal, sit-down mediation with both parties speaking to each other, can really make a big difference and take some of the pressure off you. Um, so even if the other parties don't agree to a mediation where both parties are talking to each other, we can still help with communication coaching because a lot of the same skills that the mediators would utilize in a mediation can be used for your own communications and your own negotiations to try to diffuse difficult situations and move forward to be able to keep running your business or maintaining your property. And San Francisco is an amazing place. I've lived here for 15 years, and I'm still amazed by the amount of different services there are out there, like the Office of Small Business, like Conflict Intervention Service, and all sorts of resources, legal services for entrepreneurs, like Iris Lee mentioned. We can help connect you to legal services for entrepreneurs. We can help connect you to try to get a legal consultation through the Lawyer Referral and Information Service of the Bar Association of San Francisco. And we can connect you to all sorts of other resources that might be specific to your situation. We've helped folks before who came to us, commercial tenants, and they were kind of stuck in a situation where because of different repair issues, it was impacting their revenue streams. We were actually able to help connect them, um, uh, resolve the situation so that they were able to get their business back open and running and then negotiate different lease terms to help protect them in the future. We've also helped folks who are just setting up their business and connected them to different grant opportunities, as well as help them negotiate their lease and get rolling with some grant funding to start their business. So there's all sorts of different resources that we can really connect you to once we learn a little bit more about your situation. Next slide. Okay, so I like to think about conflicts not as something to be scared of, but as something, a real opportunities to learn and to grow. But don't get me wrong, I understand how frustrating it can be to be in a conflict. Um, really at the heart of every conflict, though, is a difference in perspective. And sometimes, the perspective that you have might have something uh, blocking the view of the other party's perspective. So you might actually be seeing different things, just like if you stand in two different places and look at a group of trees, the two people are going to see different things. Um, and what mediators are really skilled at doing is helping folks to be able to see the other side and develop listening skills, because listening is a very important part of conflict resolution. And it's something that we don't get a lot of training on. We get a lot of training and education on talking, and we have TED Talks and things like that, but we don't have TED Listens, and we don't get a lot of attention paid to listening. But at Conflict Intervention Service, we can help you with that. We have a lot of expertise in working with folks to be able to hear the other side, and get them unstuck to start to move, so that they can make progress in their negotiations. Um, we might like to make sure every party gets a chance to be heard, to express their needs and concerns. We are equity based, and we get really creative. We can really help generate options, and we help parties create their own solutions. So we don't come in and say, okay, I've listened to this side, I've listened to that side, and kind of here's what my determination is. We help folks figure out solutions for themselves, which is very empowering for folks who use our services. And we can help folks with or without attorneys, or with or without different advocates, or different support systems. Next slide, please. So, Iris gave you a bunch of great information on negotiating. Um, Here's some tips for if you do find yourself negotiating on your own. And again, I definitely recommend you give us a call, or an email, so we can give you some. You can get a personally tailored advice from one of our mediators on negotiating. But here's some best practices uh, when you are negotiating on your own. So it's all about listening. You want to listen first. Um, Try to come at it with an open mind, and hear what the other side is saying. Try to take down that initial wall you may have. Listen more. What is behind the words that the person is saying? What's behind the position? Uh, there may be all sorts. What's the need that's really there, that's causing them to perhaps be stuck to a position? What is uh, what is going to be useful in what they're saying to help you move forward? And listen to understand. Um, Listen with empathy. And we can help you with that. That can be very hard sometimes when you're in conflict with another side. Um, Reflect back a summary of your understanding. This is a really useful communication technique, both to help bridge perspectives, and to clarify your understanding. There might be something that you got wrong, and be open to getting it wrong. So check that you're getting it right, and be open to the other side correcting you. Remember, what they're correcting is their expression, what they're trying to convey. So there's nothing wrong with them, correcting or clarifying that for you. So after listening, you also want, and checking that you're getting it right, you also want to assert yourself. It's very important to be assertive, but you want to do so fully and respectfully. So one way to think about this are the facts and feelings. What are the facts that are important for you to convey, and what are the impacts of those facts Um, and sometimes just naming those can help get you unstuck and move to more productive negotiation or conversation. Um, Generate strong alternatives to strengthen your negotiation position. If you can come up with two or three different alternatives, you'll be in a much stronger position than just having one, because psychologically we'll tend to just focus on that one and start to see it as the only solution, the only um, possibility, when there's lots of possibilities out there. So brainstorming creative solutions can be a really helpful exercise, and clarifying agreements in writing. So if you do, when you are negotiating on your own, and you do seem like you've reached an agreement, even if it's just as to one part of the conflict, it's a good idea to clarify with the other side what their understanding of the agreement is, and to put that into writing. That way you avoid disputes down the line. Next slide, please. So again, consider using a facilitator before you get stuck. You can reach out to Conflict Intervention Service for help, and we can tailor our coaching to your situation. We can really help also with, there's a lot of challenges nowadays with communicating online, or sometimes through emails. We can help with and just improve the quality of your communications by having a neutral third party to facilitate. Next slide, please. So how do you know if you might be getting stuck? What are some signs that you are heading to an impasse? Well, it might be helpful to know about some psychological barriers to settlement. So cognitive biases, we all have them. If you think, then you're going to have some biases. We're not always aware of them, but it can be helpful to be open to understanding that we all have them. Some cognitive biases can include anchoring. Anchoring, this is when the first offer that's made, you anchor to, and it becomes very difficult to consider other alternatives, just because the first offer can have a lot of power, and oftentimes that can really drive the rest of the negotiation due to anchoring. Overconfidence. People can definitely be overconfident in their negotiating strength, in their rights, in their remedies, in their ability to resolve the situation. Or on the flip side, folks may underestimate the same factors. There may also be communication barriers that can be driving folks to impasse: different languages, different methods of communication, different perspectives, and of course the language that's used, hostile, disrespectful, or positional-based language can really start to drive folks to an impasse. Um, so how to get unstuck? Well, what Conflict Intervention Service can help folks do is move from position-based negotiation. So, this is my position and I'm sticking to it, to interest-based negotiation. This is why I need this term, or this is why it's important for me. This is how it impacts me when the repairs aren't made in a timely way. So our mediators are very skilled in uncovering what are the things that make people stuck. Next slide, please. So to summarize, Conflict Intervention Service utilizes skilled mediators who are experienced in commercial leasing to resolve disputes that can lead to eviction or other impacts. We're a project of the Bar Association of San Francisco, and all communication with us is confidential. It's a voluntary process to mediate, but we can help folks even one-on-one. And we can connect folks to legal, financial, and other resources and provide communication coaching to assist with disputes. And we've helped both with tenants reaching out to us and landlords reaching out to us. We've assisted commercial landlords who've had difficulty with communication breakdowns with their tenants, and we're able to open those lines of communications back up. So that's a whole bunch about conflict intervention service. Thanks so much for joining today. And I think we're going to open it up to some questions.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Iris. Yeah, so again, does any other participants have any questions? You can use the chat box or the Q&A box for any question that you may have. And again, we have these QR codes as well as the websites. Should you need more information, you can go to sfgov.gov/OSB or sf.gov/commercial spaces, or there's the conflict intervention service, which is you can email them at CIS@sfbar.org, or give them a call at 415-782-8940. Any questions from participants at this time? We have about 5 more minutes. You know, some of you are trying to potentially open up a business, having a commercial storefront, you know, finding the right place that fits the need of your business is very important, which is why Iris and Divine are there to help you look at spaces. There's other services as well that can potentially help you when negotiating your letter of intent and your lease. But definitely, as you think through opening up a storefront, really think about the market fit. You know, is it a saturated market? Is it something, is the product or service that you're providing, are there a lot of competitors? You know, I know Darren and Iris talked a little bit more about the mechanics of securing a lease, but, you know, as a business owner, you have to really think through, does this place make sense from increasing your revenue for your business as well? So just a thought for you all as you, like, you know, try to open up a storefront, that doing that market analysis and market fit for the right kind of business in the area is also important before, you know, finding the commercial spaces in that area. If no questions, I think that we can stop right here. Again, I want to thank the Bar Association, Darren, and the Conflict Intervention Service for being here today. I want to thank Iris and Divine for being here as well. You know, we're here as a resource to all small businesses, so please feel free to reach out. We're here to help. There's lots of our resources out there. You just have to be able to navigate them and find the right people, unfortunately, to help you navigate them as well. So with that, I'll close out this webinar. And again, thank you all for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.